A lot of things went wrong, from a blocked punt, drop punt, missed issues defensively, giving up a lot of third downs to the Vikings, not getting them themselves. We got a lot to discuss with David Lombardi, at Lombardi himself, and he's got a new gig. So let's start with that. Are you at liberty to discuss your new gig yet, or what?
I am. We announced it on Friday. I'm technically not there yet. I'm technically still with The Athletic until this Friday, but it's going to be the San Francisco Standard. Tim Kawakami and I are starting the sports section for them. I'm obviously covering the Niners. Tim is going to be covering the Niners as well heavily this fall, but I think we'll see him on a lot of Warriors stuff and Giants stuff as well, because he likes covering all those sports. And what a time to start with the season in full swing at this point.
Yeah, so tell me what to look forward to in the San Francisco Standard. Are you going to give us the same kind of breakdown, the video accompaniment, the detail of a David Lombardi and analyzing everything Niners related as you did in The Athletic?
Absolutely. I'm going to port everything that I have done for years with The Athletic over the Standard, and maybe even a few more ideas, maybe even a little bit more creativity and depth, since there will be probably a little bit more of a free range to attack some of these ideas. So I'm really looking forward to it. There's already a ton of exciting data from the first two games to explain where the 49ers are playing well, where they're struggling. I know we don't have quite a big enough sample size yet to draw huge conclusions, but I can tell that this season is going to be a lot of fun, because there are a lot of moving variables with the 49ers, especially with Ayuk and Williams coming late, that they're going to have to address moving forward. And I think we saw some of that play out in the game on Sunday.
David Lombardi is joining us, at Lombardi himself. Follow him along, and then he'll be writing some news stuff. That's really cool for the San Francisco Standard, so make sure that you follow him over there. He does a great job with all the 49ers coverage. So there's a lot to talk about, special teams, offense, defense. There was a lot of breakdowns, but let's start defensively, and really the 14-point swing early in the second quarter, where they get stopped at the 1 yard line. Kyle goes for it 3 times on fourth down, which is kind of uncharacteristic. But of course, at the 1 yard line, you're thinking, well, if I don't make it, then our defense is good. They're going to stop it. We'll get the ball in their territory anyway and get another shot at this. But then a couple plays later, they blow the coverage, and Jefferson goes for 97. So instead of being up 7-3, you're down 10-zip.
Yeah, exactly. You go for that thinking that the downside is good defense with Sam Darnold backed up against the goal line. You don't anticipate giving up a 97-yard touchdown. But I thought that they made a terrible schematic error when Justin Jefferson was being covered by 2 safeties. You have to have a cornerback on the best receiver in football at all times. And they had an early pass breakup against Jefferson where he was working against Charvarius Ward with safety help from George Odom coming over the top. But the only reason that matchup happened is because Jefferson was lined up against left cornerback on the play. The 49ers did not have Ward trail Jefferson at all in this game. And I think that you have to alter the strategy when you're playing a receiver that's that good. All the Vikings had to do was move Jefferson into the slot on the opposite side of the field, and that's what they did from their own 3 yard line. And he got to work against George Odom coming out of the slot, and then Jair Brown, the second safety, who was trying to help over the top, but he misread the stem on Justin Jefferson's route, so he bit too early, and Jefferson just blew the roof off the defense on the play. But, I said at the time, if you're covering Justin Jefferson with 2 safeties, you almost deserve a 97-yard touchdown to be scored against you. It's not going to work. And it didn't work on that play, and maybe the 49ers were gambling heavy against the run, thinking they could get greedy in that situation and stuff Minnesota back at their own 3 yard line where they snapped the ball, but that was no spot to get greedy. You've got to make sure you put in a coverage that has a high chance of working, and that one definitely didn't.
And I know you're going to ask the questions and other writers when Kyle meets the media after our show is done today in the 3 o'clock hour about that coverage. He didn't like the cover 0 call last year involving, Steve Wilkes. I wonder what he's going to say about that. And then Sam made a great throw on that play without question, but I thought the third down on the big drive where they drained the clock and he hits his speedy nailer was an even better one. And that was a huge third down. They converted 3 big third downs. The bunch formation one to Powell. The Niners just were not good on third down. David. 7 of 12 Minnesota was on third down. And last year, the Niners were not a very good third down defense last year, as you detailed in your last piece ever for The Athletic. 42.5% they allowed, which is the sixth worst mark in the league. So just give me your thoughts on what you're seeing from Nick Sorensen's defense early in the year. And then, Brandon Staley was brought in to kind of oversee the defense, and he's a DB guru here. So he's involved in a lot of these third down defenses and also the alignment there. So I know you're looking at a lot of the early season analytics. What are you seeing from the Niners' third down defense this year and overall their defense?
Well, it's still early, so we're going to have to give them a few games to really gauge what the Russian coverage strategy is going to be. For example, I saw Nick Bosa on a zone drop yesterday. I don't think it was a third down. It might have been a second down early on. We haven't seen much of that at all, but we'd been alerted that would be something that the 49ers use a little bit more often this year with Staley on the whiteboard for this defense. So they're obviously going to throw in new wrinkles. They have some new pass rushers on this team, an entirely new interior rush outside of Javon Hargrave. So tying the front end and the back end together, it's always something that's going to take some time when there are major coaching and schematic changes. But I will say that at least for the time being, the 49ers have not been very well tied together on third downs, and that includes week one. Remember, early in that game against the Jets, it did seem that Aaron Rodgers had plenty of holes early on third down before the Jets fell behind and the 49ers were able to pin their ears back against the pass. And yesterday, it was a major problem from start to finish. I give Sam Darnold a lot of credit for that last throw to Jalen Naylor, where he basically threw him open. There were three defensive backs there. Isaac Yiadom was the main cornerback on coverage, but he threw right shoulder to Jalen Naylor before he flipped his head around. And whenever perfect offense is executed, it's going to beat even good defense. And I think that's what happened on that play. But there were so many other conversions yesterday of the and long variety that the 49ers just weren't in position for. Sometimes, too, it was a matter of undisciplined pass rush, where Sam Darnold was able to escape the pocket where edge contain was completely lost, and he would bolt out for a 15 to 20 yard gain. So, and the last play right before the field goal at the end of the half, that was a play that was schematically unacceptable for the 49ers. They had nobody in the middle of the field. So once the pass rush got upfield, there was a gap of about 20 yards, and it was an easy run for Sam Darnold. You can call that kind of play when the opposition doesn't have a timeout left, but Minnesota still had a timeout in their back pocket, so it was an easy decision for Darnold to pick up the yardage, slide, and call the timeout. So it just didn't seem to be a whole lot of situational cohesion for the 49ers defensively, and it was only Nick Sorensen's second career game as a defensive coordinator. So I still remember 2021, where it took about half a season for DeMeco Ryans to hit a stride. The 2021 defense really, really struggled up until I think the Rams came to town. I believe it was a Monday night game, and the 49ers got things fixed. But I think they're more talented now, especially on the back end. And the key is to lean into their cornerback talent. I mean, you can afford to have Charvarius Ward trail the opposing number one receiver. This team has done that before. They did it against DK Metcalf last year. They need to do so again. I think yesterday was a learning lesson. And then as far as the other schematic nuances go, I do think that time will be on their side as Nick Sorensen gets his feet wet with this new job.
That's a good point. David Lombardi is joining us talking about the 49ers loss. The biggest story over the weekend comes from putting Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve. Both short term, yesterday, what did you see not having McCaffrey in Minnesota being able to basically zero in on the weapons that are left? And then secondarily, long term, how much is this going to hurt the 49ers?
Well, Christian is a gravitational force in the pass game. I think the 49ers have a major, major blessing in Jordan Mason because he's running the football damn well for them right now. So you're not missing all that much from Christian McCaffrey in the run game, but you're missing a whole heck of a lot right now in the pass game because every time that Christian McCaffrey is deployed on a pass pattern, then he exerts that gravitational force on the defense that causes at least a step or two from defenders in his direction, and that opens other guys up. And if Christian's not out there, then your ex receiver better be separating at a high level to create that gravitational force instead. And Brandon Ayuk isn't doing that right now. Brandon Ayuk, in fact, he's averaging a yard less of separation through the first two games than he did last season. Now, part of that is obviously McCaffrey not being there to help the entire dynamic and the entire equation, but I think part of that is also Brandon Ayuk not being in top form yet and not being just quite as comfortable there yet because he did miss all of training camp. So the loss of McCaffrey is huge. The 49ers have to pick up slack with the rest of their guys because of it. But they should have the personnel to continue operating as a productive offense in spite of that loss. Unfortunately, yesterday they were productive in the raw yardage sense, but they were not productive when it came to the efficiency that mattered. They're only 2 of 10 on third down, and they weren't good in the red zone. And we know that the third down in the red zone, those money types of downs, that's when your elite separators really can make a difference, and that's where the 49ers did happen to struggle.
And they struggled picking up Brian Flores' blitz package, a lot like they couldn't pick up Spags' in the Super Bowl last year, David. And I know one area that you were concerned about this team, and obviously drafting Dominic Purdy and plugging him at right guard alleviated some of that. But the interior offensive line, the exterior, gave up 10 pressures. McKivitt gave up 6. Trent Williams, 4. Purdy gave up 3. Brendel and Banks, 2 each, according to Jeff Deeney of Pro Football Focus. And a lot of it was blitz. Flores actually blitzed a little bit less yesterday than he typically does. He blitzed 51% yesterday. Last year, he was up to 80%. Just when you look at the 49er offensive line, including Trent Williams, how do you think they handled the pressure yesterday?
I don't think they were particularly good yesterday. And you know what? I don't think that they were great against the Jets either. A lot of people were saying, all the pass protection issues are fixed against the Jets. But I saw that season opener is basically 2 games condensed into one. The first 2 or 3 drives, the 49ers were playing that game on the Jets' terms where it was a pass protection game for the 49ers, and the Jets were able to get after Brock Purdy. And remember, the 49ers did not move the ball well on the first 3 drives. There were big losses in pass protection for San Francisco early. But what Shanahan and the staff did so well in week 1 is that they basically relocated the fulcrum of the game. They relocated where that game was played to the run game after the first 3 drives. And they just started running diesel, what I call it. They just started running downhill against the Jets, and that lighter defense couldn't stop it. And because of that, because everything is tied together, the 49ers pass protection looked a lot better because the Jets were on their heels for the rest of the game. But I still remembered those struggles when they were playing more of a straight drop game over the first 3 series. So then we move forward to week 2 against the Vikings, and Minnesota is a team that, with what Brian Flores runs, they discourage a lot of the early down running plays. They essentially dare you to pass, or you could say they force you to pass. And based on the looks that the 49ers saw early in the game yesterday, that was exactly the case. They came out throwing on 5 straight downs. Brock Purdy racked up over 300 yards yesterday, but he had to really work for it because of 2 things. The separation was not great from his receivers, and B, the line was allowing a lot of pressure in a situation that it's historically struggled in, and that is trying to operate in a straight drop game. And it's a weakness of the 49ers, that's for sure. But what concerned me most, Greg, was that there were a couple plays where they let a 4-man rush get to Purdy. So we can talk about blitzes all we want, and we know that Flores blitzes a lot, and he runs these exotic blitzes that the 49ers have sometimes struggled to pick up. But if you can't pick up the 4-man fronts, that's going to lead to huge problem, because if you're already having issues separating, it's probably not going to get better if there are 7 back in coverage. And there was an early 3rd and 5 where the 49ers looked to be generating some momentum offensively. They just completed a 25-yard pass from Purdy to Kittle, and on the early 3rd and 5, Minnesota rushed only 4, and both tackles got beat on the play, especially McKivitz on the right side, and the pass was incomplete. Purdy just didn't have time to get anything off. And if that was a 4-man rush doing it to the 49ers on 3rd and manageable, it wasn't like it was 3rd and 12, that wasn't a good sign for the rest of the game.
Great stuff, David. Thank you so much for the insight. As always, I know you'll be in the presser today, so we'll learn more about Kyle, and good luck with the new venture. Not that you need it. We'll be moving over with you. Great stuff.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.
You got it.